actually, while I'm waiting for the boiler to finish its run, I think I didn't explain how I got to this point because the battery died on me last night, but I stayed down here and I stuck with it. The problem I was having was I couldn't get this piece to go on without that bearing being pushed out of its cup up here. So what I ended up doing was I ended up getting that bearing back into the position it was supposed to be in, which left this cover up higher than it was supposed to be. But while it was up, I put the handle on because the underside of this handle actually acts as what keeps that bearing from slipping up and out. So I got those screws in. That kept this together. And then I was able to just tap around the cover here and get this cover to go down enough so I could get a couple of screws started. And then I used the screws to pull it down and it seated. And it seems fine. One of the things that bothers me is on the handle there are 4 long Allen's head cap screws that hold this in. And under each cap screw there were 2 of these half-moon washers, and they go against each other to form a little almost like flying saucer shaped thing, which must have almost like a spring tension type action to it. Well, what bothers me is I'm missing one of the screws completely, and I'm missing one of the 2 washers that would go into that missing screw. And I think they were all there when I was taking this apart, so I don't know how in the heck I did it, but somehow I managed to misplace those screws. Now I took this apart over here on the bench, so before the night is over I will scour that workbench again and see if I can't find it. I'll also have to look around on the floor because maybe I accidentally knocked on the floor. I don't know how, but it happens. So I've got 3 of the 4 screws in here holding this together. I'll look for those screws while I'm waiting for the boiler. It's very cold. It's by the way, it's February 2nd, 2014. We just got hit with another major snowstorm after the Juno blizzard. On the positive side, well, depending on where you are in the country or whether or not you care, the New England Patriots are the Super Bowl champs. So that was fun to watch. It was a great game. You know, I'm not a big, huge, I'm not one of these guys who, because I live here in New England, I've got to be a big Super Bowl, you know, I got to be a big Patriots fan. I'm not that. I'm a fan of the game, I guess is the best way to describe myself. I just love to watch good, intense competition. I love to watch when the playoffs are on. I love to watch all the playoff games because that's when the level of competition just seems to have stepped up to such a high point. Anyways, but I'd rather see the Patriots win than the Patriots lose. And I've got nothing against the Seahawks, and there was a great game. Well, I don't know. Chances are, if you're a football fan, you saw it. But I just thought I'd mention, just to give you an idea what time frame we're talking about right now. All right, let me go see if I can find those screws. Okay, I found them. Unfortunately, literally, the second the boiler shut off, my wife turned on the downdraft blower for the kitchen oven, which is just above us, the kitchen stove, which is just above us, and so it's right over the camera. So that's what that noise is now. Alright, well, I'm not going to go upstairs and tell her to stop cooking. She's cooking something for tomorrow's supper. She's a good cook, so I'm not going to stop her. Alright, hopefully you'll be able to know this, so turn this forward. It's at 0 hertz right now, so that'll be 0 on. 30 hertz, so that's half of full speed. Boy, that's a lot quieter than it was before, guys. This bearing's definitely making a lot of noise. I don't have the driving gauge, but don't forget, the sheave right here is spinning right now, so that's what the bearings are supporting the sheave. The bearings down here, the quill and everything, those are different. That's full speed. How tight or loose those screws are probably has to do with how easy this handle will be to turn. The good news is this sounds really good. The bad news is the handle won't turn past this point, which means I've got that little bearing probably on the wrong side of where it's supposed to be. Something's wrong. Oh, you know what? If I take this handle off and I turn it 90 degrees, that point is going to line up with where it's supposed to be. I bet you this goes a lot further that way. Alright, let's try that. Take the handle off, turn it 90 degrees. Yeah, it's cold outside alright. Now the boiler's coming back on again already. I got 1 star. I think I've got 1 star. I'll make it easier. Now the tightness or looseness of these 4 screws, with these weird washers, is definitely what controls the tension of this handle. Not enough tension, and you can have what is described in the owner's manual as creep, whereas this little lever will start to just turn on its own. Too much tension and this handle's too hard to turn. I'll just leave it there for now. Let's see what temperature that boiler says. The outdoor temperature sensor for the boiler is really accurate. Well, it's a balmy 17 degrees outside right now. That is Fahrenheit for those of you who are watching this video and are in another country. And also there's a wind chill. There's a nasty wind chill out there. I was out snow blowing today. I had to go out twice because the snow was coming down so fast, piling up, and it was just blowing everywhere. You know, the kind where you angle the chute one way, and just when you get it angled that way, the wind changes direction and it's blowing the snow right back in your face. Fun. Main power on. I'm going to dial this back down and ease it up. There we go. Just had the handle on wrong. Full speed on the motor. It's full speed on the sheath. Of course, the drive's not engaged. I want to turn this back down all the way to slow. Not supposed to turn this handle when the motor's not running. So here we go. If I put this in low range, that will correspond to 50 RPM. So this will be low range. Should be about 200 RPM. It's top speed and low range, 525 RPM. Get in high range now. Which, to get in high range, sometimes you gotta rotate it a little bit as you're pushing on this lever. Here we go, and it's neutral, and come on. Of course that's neutral, so that's disengaged. What you gotta do is you gotta get, well, it'd be easy enough for me to do it by turning this, but ideally, why does not want to go in? Now this was working fine before. Alright. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use the VFD to turn this thing real slow and try and bump this in. Doesn't want to go. It's funny, it's uh-oh. Maybe something's not put together right here. Low range is no problem. Shoot! Something's wrong. Now I got a different problem than before. Before, this didn't want to move, this lever. Beginning to wonder if this is some sort of an alignment issue. One of my YouTube viewers sent a message and talked to me about something that he was told to do by the Wells Index Company on his mill. And they called the procedure floating the head. And I believe, if I recall correctly, what he was trying to describe was a procedure where you loosen up these screws and allow this whole assembly to be a little loose. And then you run the mill slowly. And what that's supposed to do is allow everything to line up. And then you tighten everything back up again. Now, I'm wondering if I could do the same thing by just loosening this cover and letting that float. But the problem is there are two locating pins that are pretty tight tolerance on this cover. So they kind of like are going to stop that cover from really being able to do much moving around. Maybe that's why you gotta float this part, I don't know. It's a lot easier to loosen this. We'll try that first. So I only got a couple of screws in this part now. I loosened that one screw and I thought I heard something click. Sound like it's hitting that. What if I've got this cover on 180 degrees backwards, because there's two pins, one in the front and one in the back. So the only way I could have this on, there's only two ways I could have this on. This way or 180 degrees. And I wasn't sure which way was which. I'm wondering now whether or not that's what's going on here. Pushing up on this, I'm pushing up on the cover. That's a hell of a way to run a railroad. Alright, so to take this cover back off, I'm going to take this lever off again. What was that noise? This head over again. You gotta get a ladder or something to stand on. Back down here this morning after thinking about it last night, and what I just did, I wish I had the camera on so you could have seen me do it, but basically what I did was, with this top cover completely off, I turned the machine on, and using the VFD I ran it really slow at around 5 RPM. Not 5 hertz, around 5 or 6 hertz, which is really, really slow. And while it was running, I was working this lever and it clicked in, and now it's in high. So now what I'm going to do is, with it in high, I'm going to put the cover back on and see whether or not I can't get it to work correctly now. My theory here is, what I've basically done is the same thing as, it's the equivalent of floating the head. Well, this is interesting. I can't get these pins to go in, these alignment pins. I got one screw in, and now I can't get other screws in. This cover doesn't want to line up now. Which signifies to me that when I engage this into high, this whole assembly, its shaft, is being pulled in a different direction. It's funny, the cover looks like it's lined up, but it must be just a hair off. Either that or the bolt spacing on this cover is in such a way that you can't put it on 180 degrees off by accident. That might be what's going on here. Actually, I think that is what's going on here, because I'm looking at over here, there's a big hole. You know what? I got a couple of screws that are larger than the other two, than all the other ones. Son of a gun. Can't put this on wrong. Didn't notice that before. Notice it now. So I just tried putting it on 180 degrees the other direction that I had it last time, which is with this slot to the rear. I had this slot in the front. As far as where this goes, well, I can just spin this around to suit me. So So if I want it in the front or the rear. And I thought initially that this had to go in a way so that, well, yeah, there's still the alignment pins to deal with, but what I didn't notice until just now is the spacing is different. If you notice the distance from this alignment pin, well, actually no, the distance from there to there is different. But that's the threaded hole. By the way, these threaded holes, I figured out these threaded holes are for you to put a bolt into, and then as you tighten the bolt down, it'll push on this and it'll pop this up. Remember I had trouble getting this up? I had to use pry bars and everything, wedges to pop this free. That was the key. I should have just threaded a couple of bolts in these two holes and tightened them, and this would have lifted right off. Alright. I'm standing on a couple of blocks of wood to give me a little bit more height, but quite frankly I really still could benefit from this thing being tilted over like I had it last time. Now let me do some measurements on this thing.